Should
Now
be
we're
okay.
recording.
Sweet. So first things first, I wanted to mention so that we could stay on track, the assignment itself, and I guess Miro's kind of just waiting for that. I went ahead and posted it on today's date in Miro, and essentially I've got a little sample for us, kind of just a regular SketchUp line drawing, if you will. And maybe we already went into Illustrator, maybe we already changed some lines, and obviously we want to make some things look a little bit more realistic, and we could do that pretty quickly in Photoshop. For some of this might absolutely be a review, especially if you had me in Graphics 3, where you probably literally did this one if you're in my Graphics 3. However, a recap for most of us, and we've definitely never done it on a Wacom tablet before. So, a couple things first. If we go to the very top, there are some videos. You'll notice that there's actually some Wacom tablet videos specifically to architecture. If you haven't taken a look at those, they're honestly pretty great to have in the background. However, the gist out of them is called Gumroad, and there's a free brush tool which is just made for architect students. As you'll see today, I'm going to use those brushes. They're really easy to install once I basically download that file. So just to kind of show you guys real quick, I'll go to my downloads. In my case, I got some Ghibli Photoshop brushes as well. But you'll see that it's an ABR file. What does it stand for? No idea. Not really important today. However, when you double click on it, Photoshop should automatically open. If not, I would open Photoshop first, then double click on these things, and you can load them no problem. If you're still having an issue, of course, hit B for brush. We'll right click. You'll see this little gear settings, right? And you can actually load these brushes or import brushes yourself as well, right? So just in case the double clicking method isn't working. However, to get started, I just wanted to go over some of the cool tips and tricks that we can do to make this. I also wanted to remind you that your concept diagram is due on Miro today by midnight. This could just be a photo of what you had last Wednesday, right? What you pinned up, or maybe the small little drawings. I want to keep that all in one place, and I want to be able to go, Wacom didn't use Wacom. Use Wacom, and it doesn't matter if they all didn't use a Wacom or they all do use a Wacom. But again, it's kind of for my data, and to see if that even increases at all or decreases, right? I'm looking at a lot of different variables here. So again, bear with me, guys. I'm not trying to give you assignments to keep you busy. It really is for the sake of just information, right? What's going on without asking you every day, have you used the Wacom yet? Have you used Wacom yet? Have you used, right? I don't want to do that every day, and I don't think you should have to either. Anyway, some other ways that we can use it though. So once you've loaded those brushes and you hit on B, just like any Photoshop program that you're going to do, I usually make my layers first, like sky, glass, rammed earth, wood siding. Oh, accidentally, maybe I'll have two skies in there. I don't know. But clearly, the Digi Sketch brushes is the one that I'm giving you guys for free. I think they're pretty great. The solids, for instance, are like your ink pen that you would normally use in a graphics setting, right? Pencils, I think it goes without saying, definitely looks very pencil-like, especially like pencil number 10. Of course, I can't draw on the image, so I'm going to draw on one of my layers. In my case, maybe like wood siding, right? So maybe something over here. And maybe let's start with some wood siding first. So obviously we have this portion here, and just like any other tool, guys, I'm going to use my lasso and quite simply just trace what I have. I don't know about you, but I find this to be way quicker than using my mouse or anything like that. I just selected the entire thing. I can hold shift and add to my selection. I kind of want to get the opposite side. In my case, it's assuming that all of this is connected. So I need to actually hold the antithesis, right? So in this case, I need to hold down Option key until it says minus, actually. So in my case, I want to minus this from my selection. Oh. Double click to, of course, enact that, right? You can always close anything at any time of just sort of double clicking on the screen. But I'm in my wood siding layer. And as you can see, it can get a little squirrely. Don't just be waving the pen around the screen, right? Anyway, so I don't know. In my case, I'm going for speed here. I only have about 4 weeks and 56 minutes until my deadline, so I'm not super worried about hyper realism or anything like this. The reason I'm kind of adding all these tools because it might not be a perspective in the background. Next time it might be a floor plan, an elevation, section. It doesn't really matter. We can apply these same tools to each of these. But in my case, I'm going to go with something like a soft sort of orange woody color, something around there. Thankfully, we got some true color screens, so that's looking pretty good. I'm going to go with a large brush actually. So I'm going to click on B for brush because I'm still in the lasso tool. So keep in mind you can get kind of lost and carried away. You can think that you're about to paint when you're not. Obviously I don't want some pencils for that. I'm going to go ahead and use some markers. So this does have some markers as well, right underneath. And my pen is missing a cap, so it's a bit fickle. But as you can see, we have a couple of markers here. And I'm not super pressed for time, but I do want to get a gist of the whole piece. And as you can see, I can get a lot of that really quick, but a lot of it. So in my case, I'm going to take down the opacity. I'm going to even take down the smoothing a little bit and just kind of brush that across. Kind of maybe want that a little bit darker. And give it that edge. Right. Maybe I want that a little bit darker there. And some of that lightness kind of in the top. I mean, don't get me wrong, I kind of have this little piece over here. And I could start to make my darks a little darker, right? Like anywhere. I could really start to change it up, make it a little bit smaller, add some detail. Maybe get some rich darks in there. Nah, I don't like that. Let's do it just in the shadow. But again, I don't have to worry so much about going outside of the lines or anything like that. Sweet. Let's continue. Another great tool is definitely just, like I was saying last time, is using your space bar for things, right? Let's start with maybe some rammed earth. A lot of students kind of have, some issues with rammed earth and things like that. Again, lasso tool. I'm going to go to my rammed earth layer and simply trace it. In my case, make sure you hit the lasso tool. Otherwise, you'll get some anomalies. In my case, I'm going to fake it till I make it and really just get the gist of the whole thing. So anything that I'm going to have eventually be stone, or sorry, in this case, rammed earth. I don't know about you, but tracing that is way easier in this interface. Especially stairs like that. Simply just click, 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 click. And to be fair, I am going for speed, not so much accuracy right now. I can hold shift and add to my selection. Maybe I want this other wall as well. And we can go around the bush, and we can go straight through it. Doesn't really matter. That looks, oh, maybe this back wall is also a part of this scenario. Sweet. So we got all the pieces. Now we just need to colorize it. Usually it's kind of a darker red, right? I mean, kind of a mushy color in there. But I can actually use the brushes to make that a little bit more sandy or things like that. So I'll switch to my brush. Could stay in markers if I wanted to. Keep in mind there's actually a lot of miscellaneous tools like doors, and really just a lot of fun stuff. I mean, you got leaves in here. Maybe we'll get to that. We'll do some trees next. You even got a dashed line in there. I mean, that's a game changer. I guess we'll stick with something a little more fuzzy. Soft airbrush. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I'll just get some reds in there. It's looking a little too thick to me. And I may think to myself, oh, I just messed that up. But I didn't, because we have edit undo. It's amazing. But maybe I want something a little bit more striations. I could even start to hold shift if I really wanted to make sure those were straight. So again, we can kind of really get that rammed earth look without having to do much work. And you know me, I like to keep 50% sort of white space, if you will. We'll still add a yellow in there. Obviously, I'm going to have to change my angle up on the angles of the walls. I got to follow the angle of the wall, right? But again, I don't have to worry about messing up too much in terms of striations. Not too bad. Maybe a little bit at the top. More striations. And I'm just pressing over and over again shift, right? Kind of don't get me wrong, it's kind of like playing an instrument in a weird way, right? This is why you need to practice. Obviously, things further away in the perspective, they're going to get a little bit smaller for us. I could even change the brush up a little bit, make it a little smaller. And again, change that striation super quick. Let's add some of the yellows in there. We got the pinks, that's for sure. Get some of the orangey yellows that we know and love of rammed earth. But again, I like that sort of highlight, if you will, right? That comes from the light that's maybe hitting it. And again, I make it a little bit darker. The more variation that I give to it, usually the more realistic it's going to start to appear. Yeah, add some yellows in there. And you're welcome to follow along too. I don't know if anybody's actually installed the brushes yet, but like you saw, it was quite easy. I couldn't just put the file type directly to Miro. Also, you don't have to hold shift. If you already can draw straight, I mean, obviously there's an advantage to that. Right? But once you're done, you could do Command D or Control D, deselect, and zoom out a little bit, see what it looks like. Not too shabby. However, you might be thinking to yourself, oh man, what if I messed up on the colors? What if I didn't really like that? Again, it is Photoshop. So I could take this entire rammed earth layer. My goodness, even Professor Bosoff comes back, I don't like the weird pinks in there. Oh, no problem, say no more, right? I'd go to Image, Adjustments, and Color Balance, right? And I can immediately make it a little bit more red or lighter, right? Maybe I needed to be a little bit more rich, a little bit more yellow. I don't know, maybe even a little bit more green. We can change that. And again, so I didn't have to redraw that. I didn't have to recolor it. I didn't have to redo anything, right? I just had to do that one simple layer and take it back and take it forth. However, again, I'm just going to kind of do the whole thing, right? At least in the amount of time that we do have. So some other tips and tricks. Let's get the sky in there. Looks like we have our horizon line kind of way back there. I'm going to go ahead and make some context. So in my case, maybe some mountains, sort of just freehand it a little bit. I can get a little bit of freehand, get kind of the hybrid situation going. Again, to them, they're going to already inherently know that your lines are vector lines or they came from Rhino or Revit or things like this. So what they're not expecting is to see somebody also draw on top of it, giving it that sketchy character or that schematic design character that you're really trying to grasp here. You're not trying to make a photorealistic drawing in some cases. Don't get me wrong, the money shot could still be Lumion, Inkscape, Twin Motions, things like this. But at the end of the day, it's, at least in my opinion, you want to have that processy, sketchy look. And what better than to do it digitally without having to do any of the extra work. But let's get a sky in there, some trees, some context. To be fair, there's also, I know I've shown you guys the NVIDIA canvas. You could easily make a background for this as well. What's hard about this though is especially for this competition project, you may want it to be something specific, such as the background of San Antonio and things like that, or NVIDIA canvas isn't gonna make San Antonio skyline for you, right? That might be something that you, of course, have to add in yourself. But let's add some context. We'll just call it mountains. And I'll spell mountains correctly one day. We'll get kind of a black in there, and I'm just going to act as if I was drawing, so I'm going to switch to maybe like a solid pen. Usually I go for like a 3 or 4. Little Bob Ross style, right? Get some hills in there. Maybe it is in San Antonio. All right, so maybe we're going to have this thing going in. Kind of some background things. I don't know, we're obviously in a fictitious place. I don't know, maybe a sand dune sort of hit San Antonio. It's post-apocalyptic. You never know what I might be, rendering for a client. Very often, They use a lot of architects for movies, artwork, other things, video games. You know, so maybe we're in a post-apocalyptic. There's a Tower of Life building right there, crumbling. Anyway, obviously I'm just trying to make it fun, right? But we can add some context, obviously some dilapidating trees in some way. Maybe to cover the horrendous aftermath. Maybe this is the only house that survived. You know, I gotta keep y'all's attention somehow, right? But again, this is all on those mountains layer. I really should probably maybe call it context. But again, what's nice is I can add my sketches right to it. And if we zoom in really close, to be fair, I don't know anyone who could really kind of pick that out without unless they were told to. Hey, do you notice the Wacom stuff? Very often, it kind of goes by the wayside, and it looks like sketchy drawing, right? However, let's get some of the sky in there. I don't want to cover up too much. I know I'm pressed for time, so I need to go maybe around my architecture. We can get some of the sky elements in there. Obviously, I don't want the sky on the buildings, so maybe take that out. But as you can see, I don't know about you, but after a lot of practice, don't get me wrong, I do have my own, and I do practice every single day. And I use it every single day. Obviously, in my case, I use the computer all the time. So really, instead of using a mouse now, I use this guy, right? To be fair, I've gotten pretty good, right? I use my space bar. I know when to click the right thing or when I need to sketch my architecture. And in many cases, like I was saying in the last video, you end up using it a whole lot for tracing elements, right? I mean, double click, let's get some sky in there. Make sure I'm on my sky layer. Let's get some post-apocalyptic blues. That's got to be a mission in Fallout somewhere. But we'll take some blues, maybe add a little bit of yellow to it. I don't know. Mustard gas? No, I'm just kidding. Anybody awake out there? I know it was a great weekend. But anyway, these are the jokes for today. Well, let's get something more of like an airbrush for our sky. B for brush. What do we got? Soft airbrush. Let's go a little bit bigger. That's a little too circly for me. Maybe a little bit harder. Yeah, that's a little bit better. But yeah, we got some context as well. Oh, don't want to save it yet. But yeah, what else? What else could we do? We can obviously get some ground in there. In my case, again, lasso tool all the way. There's just no better way to trace. I'm telling you. And I know you guys are out there tracing every day. Tracing exactly what we just did, right? All the time. Double click. Maybe I get some grass involved. Oh, there was a brush for like trees and leaves. I don't know, maybe I actually want to leave it kind of white. Let's go with the grass. Let's see, there. B for brush tool. If you guys saw in the miscellaneous tools, there was some crowds, there's some grass. So let's try some grass. Kind of a light, soft green. You know, I'm not too fancy with the colors. It looks like it might be a little bit bigger. Grass. Nope, not getting anything. Did I accidentally get the inverse selection? See a little bit of grass over there. What it is it's a little too light, and I've accidentally got the opposite. That's okay. Right click and select the inverse, and it'll get the opposite. In my case, brush again. There we go. You guys see what I'm doing there? It's a little too big in scale, so I can take it down. Maybe we got some big ones, we got some small ones. Maybe say at least. Maybe a couple patches here. But notice how light it is. I'm not letting it take over the architecture. I'm just adding context. Right? Leaving a lot of white space in there. I don't know. I might come back with some yellow highlights or but again, I'm just trying to reference grass, not like reinvent grass, right? Some portions. You know, maybe I kind of want it to look like a trail kind of coming up to that. You'd be surprised how important it is to look at nature now, being an architect major. Oh, that's going to get a lot smaller because it's perspective, right? It's going to go way back there. But again, speed is key. Okay. I don't know, maybe I want some brush, some striations. Again, just hitting spacebar. Getting some of those striations in there. If it looks too computery, you know, spice it up. And I'm just tapping the screen, holding shift a little bit here, a little bit there. Getting a little messy with it. Say this very least. And how long did it take me so far? 25 minutes. And if I didn't talk so much, I'd be done. Right. Let's maybe add some more character. I don't know, add some color in there. It's still looking a little, maybe we need something to pop. Maybe I'm going for something concrete, or I don't know, maybe this is a cool red Texas Tech color and then I can get some glass in there. Actually, yeah, let's worry about the glass real quick. That one's actually fun for me. I've always liked to do the glass because I can hold shift a lot, and to trace it is pretty simple, right? Again, I'm just using the lasso tool all day long, guys. Holding shift, adding to my selection. And I'm being a little, you know, kind of careless with the accuracy, but that is for the sake of tutorial. Normally I would, you know, give it an extra second or two to make sure that I'm getting in the lines and, you know, everything like that. Oh no, I accidentally undid it. It's okay. Edit undo, seriously. It is probably the best tool still in existence, right? Oh, I did it again. That's okay. Hold shift, add to my selection. Oh, and make sure you hold the right button. If you're not holding the right button, it's not gonna do the right thing. So again, I'm kind of trying to like get outside the mullions, right? I'm trying to keep those mullions in there, and obviously the structure. I'm just gonna assume there's glass here. I don't think there is glass there, but for the sake of tutorial. And don't get me wrong, this takes a little while to get every single window. The nice part is we only have to trace that once, right? If you see yourself tracing it twice, 3 times, 4 times, you're not doing it right. Let's just get a huge swath there. That whole piece, forget that mullion. I guess we could, you know, remove it as well. But for the sake of tutorial, I don't want to just be tracing stuff all day. Let's get a nice light blue in there. You know, usually actually it's a little darker, you know, to kind of get the reflection. It doesn't matter. We can test some things now, right? I mean, we got edit undo. We can, if it's not good, we can redo it. So B, I'm gonna go with obviously not grass on my. Let's go with my markers. Yeah, I really do like these tools a lot. The marker tool, right? You could do something like that. In my case, it looks like it accidentally clicked the screen. Sweet. And I barely have to do a thing. At least in terms of worrying about where my piece is. Now, in my case, maybe I want some darker spots, if you will. So, I don't know about you, but I kind of like to put the shadow on the glass. Oh, too small. Let me get a little bit in there. Oh. Don't just hold shift the whole time, otherwise you'll kind of get those lines across, right? I'm just adding a little bit of shadow in there. I'm gonna spice it up a little bit. Give it some depth and character. But again, I've got that whole piece of glass. If it was too much, I could take it back, press it forward. I accidentally got my grass in there. Obviously be careful with that. Image, adjustments, brightness and contrast. and can change those things, right? Per layer, right? What else? What else? Let's maybe finish it with, I don't know, the roof. Add some characters. Why not? Oh, actually, I wanted to make that red. That's what I wanted to do. So let's get that piece. And we actually need that wall inside. That's kind of a part of it. I'm gonna make sure I get that. Just the wall part inside. I'm gonna hold shift. So it does require thinking, right? Some critical thought. We gotta really kind of analyze the drawing and what's getting colored, what's not getting colored. In my case, this thing, maybe I want to leave that out. Double click, sweet. And so I want to turn that red, Raider red, nice crimson. Switch to my brush. And go with a marker. Kind of a bright red on the outside. Maybe stab it again. Maybe there's some shine to it. And it's got like maybe a real plasticky feel. And maybe it's really dark on the inside. You can almost hear my screen, right? It sounds like a marker. But again, for some of us, I think even a little bit more intuitive to what we're used to. Really rich in there. I don't know. I didn't really have to go that much, right? I could have just increased the opacity, but as you can see, it gets a little saturated. It actually looks okay on the projector, but deselect again. Well, I put it on my glass layer, so I might have to like dial it back in that way. But again, just right. And you can still dial these things in. And what's great is I can give it to my studio professor and go, what do you think? And he's gonna, or she's gonna go, oh, I hate that color. Why did you choose that? It's okay, I've got it in a whole nother layer. Right, I can simply change that color anytime. So anyway, that's really all I kind of wanted to address today. I have about 19 minutes left. So if you have specific questions about Rhino or even what we just did now, Photoshop-wise, now's the time, right? Because I can show you how to do it with a Wacom tablet, right? And as I was just showing you, Tank, she was asking, how do I make a curve in Rhino? And I was like, man, there's no better way, right? Now you can just get a regular curve and you can simply draw it yourself. I mean, Renzo Piano's got nothing on us now, right? I can hit enter. I can even take that line. I can move it pretty intuitively now with my hand. It's like drawing with the screen. I don't know, I find it pretty incredible. I'm only about 6 months in, to be fair. And keep in mind, I've gone over and above so that I could teach you guys. So I look like I know what I'm doing. To be fair, I'm still learning with you guys as well, which is why I've been doing the assignments with you, right? However, if this excites you and you got more questions, you can always ask me. Right? Hit me up even 4 o'clock in the morning. I won't answer until about 6, but I'll still answer. Right? Any questions so far? Hopefully able to use it? Yes.
So like you like did a selection and then like you minus a selection inside a selection.
Correct.
How did you do that?
So I held Option key on Mac or Alt on Windows.
Okay.
You can also, in the top corner of the screen, it gives you the option to switch between them.
You can do that too.
And then
Or select inverse, you can do that stuff too.
So would you say the best way to go about this for like us is like screenshot an Arctic view and then like print it out, go over it with a pen, scan it, put it back in Photoshop?
Well, it's like anything that you would normally color your drawings with is now, I no longer have to scan it. I could just start in Photoshop.
Okay.
So if, say I'm taking a model from Rhino and make 2D, okay, awesome. The only reason I would never, I could take my make 2D lines, and if I wanted to trace it with analog drawing now, I just put it here and I just draw it, right? I mean, for instance, that's a really good question, Lewis. Say I have another layer, and maybe I didn't want these lines per se, so I'm gonna take the background and I'm gonna kind of soften these up like big time, and I'm gonna draw my own, right? So let's say those were just lines that came in for Make 2D or just Rhino. I could simply come in especially with my solid tools. Let me get a little more position for this. But I could take, you know, something a little sizable. That might be too big. There we go. But I could use my shift key. Oh, let's use a better color. But you could draw those lines yourself. Right? Obviously, smoothing's not your best friend.
You're still on the layer with the opacity.
Oh, that's right. Let's take that back. Go back to layer 1. There we go. Thank you, Kate. But as you can see, you can draw the whole thing yourself too. And you can still get that shaky line. Right? To be fair, I'd go a little bit thinner and a little less dark. But if you hold shift, you can kind of cheat, as we say not to do, right, in freehand drawing. But you could, and to be fair, it's still pretty quick. I can hit both, right? If I hold shift, what's kind of neat is I can start at a point. If I hold shift and click the next point, it'll make a straight line between those 2 points. That's something I was doing last time as well. Did you notice that, Lewis?
No, I didn't.
So if I click something, click, pull off, I hold shift and I click again, it's gonna make a line to it. And it doesn't matter where, right? I mean, I'm just holding shift right now. And as you can see, it's making straight lines and all of that, right? So potentially you can kind of make straight lines only and it still looks kind of sketchy. To be fair, you could also just trace it. Especially if you already have skills, guys. I mean, don't get me wrong, what's nice about some of these screens is you have the ability, you don't have to worry about your hand touching the screen. It's only the pen that's going to get that. But you can definitely still give it that analog look. Right? Great question. Trace it. Better not be spilling stuff on my computers. We went over that last time. No breakfast tacos, no computers. Sorry, no drinks around the computers. But great questions. Any others, guys? Fair enough? Use it. Get to it. And last thing. Concept diagrams on Miro. I just want to see where you guys are. If that was kind of just a picture you took from last Wednesday, great. Right? Keep in mind, it's an easy 100. If it's there, it's 100, guys. If it's not there, I'll give you another 0. Please don't let the graphics class be the reason why you go down a whole letter grade. Right? That's ridiculous. Especially when we're just doing really cool stuff like this. That really just directly applies to studio drawings. I'm not asking much. Anyway, sound good? Get a concept diagram up there? Thank you, guys.
And if any of you are interested in, or if you're willing to have me film you draw